On this episode, the most critical skill for growth and 2 ways to develop it.
This is the Holistic Alpha Male Optimization Podcast, where we help you unleash your true power as a man.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I'm Stephen Mathis. Thank you for being here. Speaking of being here, we are here to grow, right? That's why I'm here. Is that why you're here? I imagine it is. We're here to grow and expand and improve and create and build. And there is one skill that is more critical to all of that long-term than anything else by far. We do need a number of things to be able to grow. We need an open heart and mind to be open to new possibilities, new ways of believing and acting, new potential timelines and ways of being in the world. We need courage to be willing to dive into the parts of ourselves and work on the parts of ourselves that we're not really thrilled with. We need awareness to have the discernment to recognize what needs to change, what doesn't feel in alignment, what does feel in alignment. We need a number of things to grow, but there's one thing long-term that's going to make the difference more than anything else. It's what really makes the difference between people who dramatically change and transform and grow and those who don't. It's consistency. That's what matters long-term. Nothing changes without consistency. It doesn't matter what new ideas you get, what new information you get, what new inspiration or perspective you get, what habits you start, what projects you start. What matters is consistency. That is where the rubber meets the road in our life. It's the difference between doing a daily habit 275 days over the course of a year and 90 days. And notice that 275 days is not perfect. We don't need to be perfect. Being consistent isn't about being perfect. It's about striving for that. It's about being as close to it as we can. It's about getting back on track quickly when we get off the path. Let's talk about 2 ways to be more consistent because it matters. These are the 2 ways that I have found to be most powerful. Number 1 is tracking. It is very hard to be consistent with doing something that you are not tracking, especially when it's something that's new, that's pushing your edges. And that's where all growth happens, right? It's very hard to be consistent with things that we're not tracking. One of the reasons for that is that when we get off the path, when we start to miss days, if you're not tracking it, all of a sudden those days add up. Those days add up to weeks. Maybe they don't even add up to weeks, but they add up to 3, 4, 5 days over and over and over again. Where we miss that. That's the difference between 90 days over the course of a year and 275 days over the course of a year. How much difference do you think that makes in our long-term growth if we're executing something 90 days versus 270 days or 180 days versus 300 days? It makes all the difference in the world. So the number 1 thing is track. Track your key daily habits, especially the new ones, especially the ones that are expanding your edges, and especially the ones that are the most important foundational things for your health and well-being and growth. I really like using an app called Habit Share. I would love to connect with you there. I'll put a link, some info to connect with me on Habit Share below. That's where I track a lot of my habits. However you do it, track your key daily habits. So that is way number 1 that we can be more consistent. The second way is just go through the fucking motions. Go through the motions. Too often, we're faced with a workout, a project, some kind of whatever it is, a meditation. We don't feel our best. Maybe it's sitting down to do a meditation and your mind feels especially scattered. You have emotional stuff that's going on. You're all triggered. You don't feel like sitting and meditating. You just know it's not going to be a good meditation. Or your physical body's not really feeling great. You don't feel like working out. You're tired. You didn't really sleep well that last night. Too often we let those things and the seeking of perfection and the need to be at our best get in the way of just executing another day. Let's go back to the 90 days versus 275 days. If you execute 275 days and 100 of those are you just going through the motions, they're not particularly energetic, particularly vibrant, you're not at your best, 275 minus 100 is 175 days. That means the 175 days still you're way beyond just going through the motions. You're kicking ass, right? And it's the going through the motions days that enable you to be consistent, because the reality is you're not always going to be motivated. You're not always going to feel well. You're not always going to be at your best. You're not always going to be able to show up in the same way. You're not always going to want to do it. Sometimes just go through the motions. It's okay to just go through the motions. It's okay to go to the gym and not really feel like you're necessarily pushing yourself that hard today. Going through the motions versus not going because you're tired or whatever, that's consistency. So, whatever area of your life you're really wanting to change, especially any areas of your life where you're a little frustrated with a lack of progress, that lack of progress is almost certainly due to a lack of consistency. It's very likely you have a good amount of the information that you need, at least to take the next steps, maybe not for the whole journey. You have what you need to take the next steps. The question is, are you consistent? So if there's an area of your life that's not seeing the kind of change that you want to see, or there's an area of your life that you've really just recently decided, I really want to change this, consistency is where it's at. Focus on that. Track it. Connect with me on HabitShare, and just be willing to go through the motions. I've had a number of days in the last week or two where being up here in the mountains, putting this weight vest on, carrying a kettlebell, going through my training session, whatever it is, I haven't felt at my best, the strongest I've ever been. You know what I did? I showed up and I went through the motions. And when you do that, you will change and you will grow. Be consistent. Go get some. We'll talk to you soon.